Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, a weekly podcast where the team members from That Nerdy Site get together to talk about our lives and all of the nerdy things we love about them. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and joining me this week, Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Hey, what's going on?
What's going on? Apologies for the lack of episode last week. I had a spur-of-the-moment cross-country road trip that pulled me away last weekend, so I was not around to record our episode. And that basically happened Saturday morning is when I left, and I didn't get back until I flew back Monday night. So, no episode last week. So we've got a couple weeks to catch up on, but we don't have a ton to chat about, mostly because I've continued to just keep playing Baldur's Gate 3. I'm now in Act 3 of my Tactician playthrough, so there's that, but I'm not going to dive into that. Today we're going to be talking about Cameron's time with Lies of P, and the thing I will be bringing to the table is my time with the Final Fantasy Ever Crisis mobile game. So we will chat about that. If you like what you hear, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. So Cam, kick us off, because you've gone way deep down the rabbit hole on Lies of P.
Yeah.
Especially compared to, like, you were pretty lukewarm on it when you did the demo back when. So, what has turned you around on Lies of P here?
Yeah, I think I found myself being very interested in a couple of the things that I was seeing from what other people were saying about the game. And I was like, maybe I should just give this game another shot.
On Game Pass.
It's on Game Pass, so I was like, why not? Like, I was playing Sea of Stars while it downloaded and like played like the first section of like little section of Sea of Stars. And then it was like, oh, okay, cool. And I was like, I'll just hop into Lies of P, like basically give myself that confirmation that like, yeah, this isn't going to be it for me. And what ended up happening instead is it finally clicked. Like the way that I was trying to play that game, like when I was playing the demo and checking everything out, was fine. But for some reason this time around, things finally synced up in my brain. And maybe it was the fact like it was 11:30 at night. Maybe it was just something else. But it kind of just clicked for me. And then from there, it was just kind of like off to the races. I was up till like maybe like 2 or 3 in the morning playing Lies of P after that. So I fell really into the game. And then just over my time this last week, I've almost beaten it. I'm at the very last area. Made it to like a check, like the like 3rd or 4th checkpoint. So like the game itself is so like the 3rd checkpoint, or maybe it was the 2nd checkpoint to the the 2nd Stargazer, which means nothing to you, but for folks out there who know,
Played the game, beaten the game.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of those things. It sound based on where you were like, oh, I think I'm almost done, kind of thing. If we were recording during our normal like Sunday evening block,
I'd be done.
Maybe
with it.
you'd have eaten the game by then. But we are doing a thing with your brother-in-law this evening, so not able. So we had to basically push up our record time. So we will be back with like final thoughts of Lies of P next week. But so far you're just digging the combat. How does it like? Obviously, the big comparisons, of course, are it's Soulsborne-y, Elden Ring-y. So how does it fall in line with those in terms of like this Sekiro, Bloodborne, all the above?
This is like a weird child of Sekiro and Bloodborne in a way. It's a lot about determining, because they have a perfect guard system. So basically, if you time your guard right, it will do like you take no damage and you take no stamina, and like it does a stagger. It does a stagger to the enemy. Thing is that there's not like a stagger bar like in Sekiro, so you know like how close or far you are away. So some enemies have like a much more difficult stagger to get to. But what's really cool, and one of my favorite things, is that enemies with weapons, when you stagger them enough and you hit them, and like eventually if you not stagger them, if you perfect guard them enough, their weapon breaks, and so they lose reach as well as damage.
Yeah, I saw that as like one of Andy's first kind of like little breakout videos about the game.
Yeah, it's a really cool moment when you realize, oh my gosh, because it like the screen like flashes real quick, like a quick flash. And you get like, it's like the sparks of a blade breaking, and it's really, really cool, especially when you've been fighting this enemy. And I was fighting this one enemy that was wielding a saw in one hand and a dagger in the other hand. And she was just coming at me. And so I didn't have time to even really do a proper dodge to evade her. And so I was having to really time her attacks right. And eventually I broke her saw. And then I proceeded to lay waste to her. It's a game. One of the things I like about it and that I find interesting and challenging about it is when you drop your souls. In this game, it's called Ergo. When you drop your Ergo, you on your way back to it, if you take damage, the Ergo you have over there starts decreasing in the amount. And so if you find yourself in a tough corner, you can start seeing like your Ergo count dropping drastically. Now there's some items to prevent that. They're pretty prevalent. You can definitely get around it. But something I liked about that was if I dropped like a reasonable amount that I'm like, do I like want to go, like I was off the beaten path. Do I want to really go down and grab it? It's a great way to kind of like gauge like how many enemies am I going to go through? Is this amount actually worth it? And sometimes the answer is no. And I actually like there's the swing of that is it sucks to drop Ergo and it's a large amount and you have to get back to it and you like get caught up in some bullshit and you start seeing that count drop and it like stresses you out. But then
it sounds like something I would absolutely hate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, oh, cool.
Absolutely.
One of the mechanics that I hate about Soulsborne games has just gotten worse. Fuck this.
Yeah, nope. I think that is probably the biggest turnoff of this game. But at the same time, it really, for me, there's a part of it that I like because it's like, I'm not going to go down there just for like 3,000. Like, even at a point in time in the game where like 3,000 was like not an insignificant amount, knowing what I'd have to do to get there for it just is not happening. And so I made the decision not to do it. And there's other stuff like that. One of my favorite things about it is like, so one of my favorite things about it is actually its story. It has a incredible story. Lies of P's story is one of my favorites of stories of this year.
That's what I was going to ask. It's obviously very like Pinocchio inspired. So like it eventually swing around to like boss design and story. Like how much is it like really playing with the Pinocchio myth and story and
it goes deep.
Yeah.
It goes real deep. And I'm not talking about the Disney Pinocchio. We're talking the original novel. There are so many characters in this game. And it's awesome because they're all pulled from Pinocchio. And they're all pulled like the original story of Pinocchio. And so you have like Pinocchio and Geppetto. What's funny is, and I'll get to it when I talk a little bit more about the story, but also like Geppetto's cat is there. He's a tabby cat in the original telling. So it's not the like persnickety like black cat with white paws from the Disney film. But what's really fascinating is that you have like the bosses are based off of characters from Pinocchio but the thing is later you realize, they're not just based off of it. Like there's a deeper point that like I would love to do a spoiler cast with somebody at some point. Putting out the feelers. Anybody wants to do a Lies of P spoiler cast, I'd love to be on it. But there is a deeper tie to these characters and what they mean to this. And instead of it being inspired, I think that's the biggest thing. This isn't inspired by Pinocchio. This is a retelling of Pinocchio's story. And it's a darker version of that story for sure. And there's a mystery. There's a greater mystery going on because basically, like in the laws of robotics, like Asimov's laws of robotics, there's a a grand covenant that basically puppets aren't allowed to hurt people. But this is during a time where puppets went on a frenzy and started attacking people. And so that gets brought up. That's one of the mysteries. There's further mysteries as there's this thing called petrification disease where people are starting to petrify and turn to kind of stone. And later you find out that like some people who have the petrification disease turn into monsters. And you have to like fight them. That's not really a spoiler because that's in like some promotional stuff as well. But like there's a mystery behind like what's going on with that. There's the question of like, what is Ergo? Because Ergo is this power source that they found, but it also ties into this faction called the Alchemists. And there's the story, the city of Krat is built off of the foundations of the workshop, which is Vanini and Geppetto and their puppets and their technical devices and mechanical stuff that is really revolutionizing things in Krat. There's the old families, which are like the original families that were in Krot before, like when Krot was like a seaside town. And then you have the alchemists, who are these mysterious people that came from an island off the coast that came through, and basically the old families and the alchemists discovered Ergo, and kind of like the evolution of that relationship as Krot kind of got built up. And then the workshop gets introduced when Vanini and Geppetto, who are both younger guys, come into the kind of like scene, and they revolutionize the city. They make it this like bustling city, where like, puppets are doing all the manual labor, and puppets are like handling all these things, and and like there's just massive amounts of prosperity. And then you are Pinocchio, you're P, and you're Geppetto's puppet. That like there's a lot of like mystery around like, why did Geppetto make you in a secret workshop? And like there's a lot more going on in that story, and that's being told, that gets revealed as you go through and meet more and more. There's some like really like, looking back on it, there are heartbreaking moments. At the moment, I didn't realize how like what they were heartbreaking, but like I'm like watching it and I'm like, okay, cool. Now I fight this boss, and now looking back on it, it's like, actually that was a really tragic moment, and I didn't realize it, and now I do, and I'm very sad.
Is it how's the story conveyed over the game? Is it more traditional cutscenes and stuff, or is it still just a whole bajillion? Oh, you really get the deepness of this by reading all the item descriptions and blah blah blah.
You get the best of both worlds. Okay. There's dialogue with characters that you talk to that convey more of the story. There are cutscenes, traditional cutscenes. There are the traditional cutscenes are more to set like the kind of like set up the boss fights and whatnot, like you get in a Souls game. But there's a lot that gets revealed in mostly dialogue, like talking to people and doing some quests for some people. I helped an old lady who had the petrification. This is not a spoiler at all. There's an old lady with the petrification disease who asks you to go, hey, if you go by this one place, can you grab me this bottle of wine that I know that they have there? And so I did that for her. And it was and this is where the lies mechanic comes into effect, because basically the first lie you tell in the game is, in order to get to the Hotel Krot, which is like the safe place, your hub area, so to speak, to go in there, puppets can't go into Hotel Krot. So you have to lie that you're not a puppet to go into Hotel Krot. And that's you discovering, this lie mechanic. And as you lie, basically, whether you tell the truth or you lie, different things happen to Pinocchio that somehow make him more of a real boy or more of a puppet. And I believe that's probably tied into the ending that you get, depending on like how you do it, because it's slow progress over time. And it's like, but the thing is, the lies that you're set up to tell are never lies that hurt people. It's lies to alleviate guilt, or like help somebody deal with something that was like, obviously like a great one of this that's also not a spoiler is a dude who's in love with a puppet, and you find the puppet's been destroyed, and you go back and you bring a wedding ring back to him, and he says like, and you have the option to be like, dude, she was a puppet, of course she didn't love you. Or on the flip side, you can tell him, I actually found like this note back there about how much she loved you. And it's like you get to make those decisions. So like the truth is oftentimes so much harsher. But then there's some like mischievous lies you can tell as well with some folks. But yeah, a lot of the original classic characters from the original Pinocchio story show up as either bosses or so the three main factions I told you about earlier, there's two sub-factions that make up what's called stalkers. Stalkers are like the hunters in this game, it's like a la Bloodborne. There's two factions of stalkers, those. They're the sweepers, who are basically born from the alley, like they're alley born, they're the poor, who rose up to then be paid by the old families to act basically as their bodyguards. And then the other stalkers are the bastards. And the bastards are people from the noble-born background who provide the service overall, and they're allied with the alchemists. They have ties to the alchemists. But you have these different ones. But by the time P wakes up, Krot has really gone through it. You find out that like the workshop, which is where the stalkers used to all kind of come together and meet, has fallen already. And so you're in a really like the city's in a really bad place, which is why you like as a last ditch effort, Sophia, who is kind of like your fire maiden in this game, your bonfire maiden, she awakens P, and that starts the game. And she does it as kind of like a last ditch effort of like, hey, we need somebody out here who can help. And Geppetto thinks that P can help, so she awakens P. And when Geppetto goes missing, and so like that kind of kick starts the game off. You go through Krot. Krot is it's very Prussian inspired. It's like a good mix of Prussian and Parisian in a lot of ways. That it's super European, which is funny because Pinocchio is like a Milanese. Like it's a story from Milan, which is that I find very funny because when I was at PAX West, there was a game that's about like the folklore of Milan, and I asked them, I was like, so is like Pinocchio in this game at all? They're like, no, not at all. I was like, okay, fair enough. You have like a very like Western, like Northwestern European, like kind of setup of it, and it's done very well. One of my favorite things is that you can find records. That's completely original music that you don't find anywhere else in the game. A couple of them you find in the game, like out in the world. But like there's some really amazing tracks that you find that, as you listen to them, it actually adds to, becoming more of like, if you listen to the entire song, it raises like your empathy level, I guess is the best way to put it. Like like they explain it differently in the game, but, and it's not, you're not given that instruction, but if you find yourself just like listening to the music, you grow more human. And if you interact with the stuff at Hotel Krot, like when things that you can interact with pop up, you become more human. And, to the point where, and this is a great fun thing they did is there's the cat mechanic. However, if you're more puppet than human, the cat won't let you pet it. So as you get more human, you do more interactions with the cat. And I got to a point where I can now I basically grab the cat and like hold it out like this in front of me and like play with it a bit and then put it back down when it meows at me. Like meow, like put me back down, please. It's great. Yeah,
the way every cat loves to be played with.
I know. I don't know because I'm allergic to cats, so I never get to play with cats. I don't know what it's like to play with a cat.
Cats famously do not like being held.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. Cats very much the opposite of dogs in that regard.
Good to know. Because if I try to hold a cat or a cat, a cat rubs up against me, I break out in hives. So it's not great. So I have no idea. But I guess
just you describing that, it was like, that seems like the most robot-y, puppety thing to try and play with a cat. Of like, hello, cat, I'm going to hold you out here and shake you a little bit.
Well, what's funny, I guess, is that the cat doesn't, because when you first try to pet the cat will like try to attack you. Mm-hmm. And I guess at this point, it's basically like the cat's just totally chill with you, basically, where you do something the cat shouldn't like, and it doesn't attack you. Yeah. I guess is the point.
That's like the cat is still miserable, but it's putting up with you.
Yeah,
is what it sounds like.
Because it loves you. Because it thinks you're human and it loves you, which is impossible because people anthropomorphize cats. Cats don't actually feel that way.
You don't know that. You don't know what pets feel.
We do know. Science has told us.
How do we know what like science can tell us about a creature we can't actually communicate with?
Based off of there's a whole study about it. Zay Frank did like the real truth about cats, which also is like has a bunch of like links to a bunch of like research about cats. We've been studying cats for literally hundreds of years. Like we know.
Sure. I don't think we do.
Anyway, back to the point, which is the game. The game's really, really good. One of my favorite things about the game though is weapons. And so instead of like other traditional Soulsborne games, you have like very basic weapons that you find throughout the game, and then you have like the cool boss weapons that you get from like the boss resource. That's how it is for a lot of Souls games. This game is not different in that regard, where there are regular weapons and then there's like big special weapons. But what differentiates them is the customization of weapons in this game is based off of weapon and hilt. So one of the coolest things to do is to, for example, say I have there's a like club that you get that's like a electric club. You use like the triangle ability of the weapon to charge it, like supercharge it, so your hits will more likely cause electric damage, which is like a like DPS. It does damage per second on the enemy, so even when you're not attacking them, it's doing damage to them. There's that with fire, acid, and light and electricity. And so I'm like, yeah, but I want it with like something with longer reach. So you can take the thing that does the electric ability and put it on I put it on a like gas powered like rocket staff that normally is attached to like I think it's like a pickaxe or a wrench, and oh no, it's like a glaive, so it's like a spear. But instead of doing a thing where normally when you use that you do a shove attack, but I want to do a club attack, so I take the head of the electrode, put it on this long pole, and now I can do an R2 charge attack where I literally get boosted over to an enemy and whack him with it, electrify him, and do more damage. So you can do that, or you can take like a great sword, put it on I can put it on a police baton handle, like hilt, and all of a sudden, instead of like doing like these big wind up swings, instead you're doing just like the regular swing. So your attack patterns are based off of the hilt that you have, with the damage that's done is based off of the weapon part of it. And so it's really, really cool breaking down these things, trying out other stuff. It makes for the first time in a rarity where normally it's like, oh, I want to test this out on some enemies, and some games will have like dummies for you to test stuff on. This is the first game where I've actually like needed to like do a lot of experimentation to find like what I prefer and like. And I've fallen deep into that. I really love the customization on it. I just maxed out a bone saw weapon that I've attached to a police baton. And so I do crazy amounts of damage with this great sword that I'm wielding around like it's a club. And it's really very cool. The entire process of like assembling weapons and everything, and really helps you like make a difference in a lot of fights. And it's been very, very cool. I will also say that the major weapons that you get from bosses are also very awesome. I had a great sword that popped out 6 other swords on the side of it when you do a heavy weapon attack, and then when you do like a shockwave maneuver for its triangle ability. When you bring it down, it sends a shockwave out. There's one where when you do use its like standard triangle ability, it becomes all of a sudden the handle gets super long, and so you have like this long handled great sword that you can swing around. There's just lots of really awesome stuff. One of them is like a scythe that when you swing it, the scythe blade like actually like extends out, like almost like a whip. That's cool. Like there's really awesome weapons. My next playthrough, I want to do it like, so right now I'm doing a motivity. So it's broken down into motivity, advance, and I'm trying to remember what the other one is. It's motivity, advance, and balance. That's it. Balance. So you have those 3 things. And so there are different weapons that have like in Souls games where, oh, this is spec'd like an A in strength or a C with a C in dexterity. Same thing, but they break it down just to 3 categories to simplify it, and I think it's done extremely well. You can do things to like alter and all of that is actually found in the hilt. So my police baton, the reason I use that instead of like another like short-handled weapon is because that's motivity, like it's at a B for motivity, and I gave it a motivity crank, which increased it to an A rank rather than a B rank. So now I have this like, so that increases it. If you have it like, oh, like I have that gas powered, like long pole handle, I equipped a motivity crank to it. So instead of it being a D in motivity, it raised it up to a C in motivity to make sure that I did more damage with it. There's still your basic soft caps. So you don't want to invest all your points into just like one thing, or else you're going to have to invest all your points into it to up it. Like you do, for example, like, when you are playing Elden Ring and you're doing magic, you hit a soft cap at like 40 points into it. And so there is a, what's the right word I'm looking for? Not detriment, but there's a like depreciation in return on it.
Yeah.
So you don't get as many upgrades into the points that you would normally when you hit that soft cap.
What is that word? Because yeah, it's not depreciation.
Something of return, diminishing returns.
Diminishing returns. There you go.
Yeah, diminishing returns. So diminishing returns is, so I'm now before I was like at like 60 in motivity, and then I was like, oh, this game has soft cap. So I took the 20 points I respect and took those 20 points and put them into like vital. So I was just putting points into capacity, which is like your ability to carry stuff, and like I did 25 into capacity, and then everything else was in motivity. And then I respec myself out a little bit to put it into vigor, which is health, and whatever stamina is in this game. And I'm much more balanced now, and I'm doing way better. That was like a big game changer, was realizing that I had hit a soft cap and didn't realize it. And I was not wanting to put in and they're like, in this game, you do not really want to break your soft cap. Like there's really no point to it because you don't level up as easily as you do in like Elden Ring.
Mm-hmm. Game doesn't tell you there's a soft cap though. This is a thing you had to go and find elsewhere.
Yeah.
Fuck this game. Like tell me the mechanics of the game, or why the fuck are you wasting my time?
Here's the thing, Trevor. That's why I'm not at any point. I'm not trying to convince you to play this game.
No.
I will say another thing is that I think there's no multiplayer in this game. But there is a kind of like boss assist system called I'm trying to remember if it's called Stranger. Basically, you crush like moonstones into this bowl of ergo, and it basically creates a copy of you, and that's like more like shadowy. And what's really cool is a lot of times when you're going up against a boss, they'll either have the same weapon as you, or they'll have the weapon that the boss gives you. So you get to check out what that weapon looks like and how people are using it. It's pretty cool. But yeah, no, but because that's another thing too. I wouldn't suggest you play this game because like I can't help you.
Yeah.
It is, but also I will definitely also say is that the bosses are not as hard as like Soulsborne bosses usually are. They're not nearly as punishing because the mechanics are so much more simplified. And like but at the same time, because of that, the amount of bullshit is not nearly as prevalent as there is in other Soulsborne games.
I mean, I'll like the going back to like, oh, I saw that video that Andy posted of like, yeah, if you perfect guard and parry, you'll break the enemy's weapons. I'm like, that's just never a mechanic that has ever grabbed me in games.
For sure.
I don't do it. So like from there, it's like, oh, if your game is built around like exploiting and using that mechanic, I don't do that. I grew up playing too many just hack and slash games to really ever like rely on or use shields in like the capacity that a lot of these games want you to use them in. So they just don't fly for me.
That's really fair. And that's another thing.
Is there like also I guess since the closest I ever come in these games is typically with a magic build, be it Demon's Souls or Elden Ring. There's no magic build. So like, is there any kind of ranged build, or is it just, no, you got to be in the mix?
There's one weapon. So this is actually a great moment for me to talk about the Legion arm system. So P as a puppet is a mechanical, but has a very mechanical like left arm. That's very much like a prosthetic left arm. Mm-hmm. The first one you get is just
Sekiro vibe.
Yeah, the first one is just a like metal arm that does like some damage, and you can only use your Legion arm abilities, like the L2 ability. You can only use it for a certain amount before you run out of energy on it, and so there's some stuff like. But basically, the Legion arms, there's one Legion arm that is like a gun. So you can use that, but it when it hits somebody, it then explodes. So it's pretty good, but it's not like there's another one that's like a ground mine impaler, where like you put a mine in the ground and you can kind of like leave a trap for somebody. I'm sure there's going to be builds where people do crazy stuff with those two things, but like I'm not really into that as much. But outside of that, there's really not a big range type of build. There's a lot of pole arms, so you get like that's where the range of the game kind of comes into effect, but it's not nearly the way it is with like Magic and Elden Ring.
Yeah, it's not range, that's reach.
Yeah, I guess that's a good way to put it. There's reach in the game, but there's not really any range.
Yeah.
To be fair, most enemies aren't range either. So there's not like a lot of like enemies like farther away doing a lot of like damage from farther away. There are some, but they're not like, even then it's like it's not that long range. I can only really think of one enemy that is like literally has like a howitzer cannon. One thing I will say that I like about this game is that there are like the more difficult, like there are like kind of like tougher enemies that after you kill, they're gone. Like they don't come back. So that's a nice thing that they do as well. Like you don't have to like, oh man,
similar to like Elden Ring, where like, oh, the mini bosses, won't come back, kind of thing.
So there's even like another stage. So between regular enemies and mini bosses, there's like tougher bosses, and those don't respawn either. So
gotcha. Okay.
Yep. There is a clown that will literally throw punches at you that are like spring loaded, and he's a son of a bitch. But he's also like, killing him was one of my most triumphant moments of this game, which is just not because he was like too difficult of an enemy, but because he does some like wacky shit. Really fun. And that's another thing too. I think this game really straddles the fun and challenging without venturing into punishment very often. This game is not nearly as punishing as like Elden Ring or not even Bloodborne. It just like there's like a lot of times when you're like, okay, I died. Well, I know how I died. I know why I died.
I will say, given that you've been playing this a lot, this last week, I will hear through the doors. I'll hear like the occasional like obscenity, but I don't think it ever comes anywhere near like the days you were struggling against the fire giant. So.
Yeah, no, I never, like, that's the thing. The angriest I've ever gotten is nowhere near like the like lower anger thresholds that I got through like playing Elden Ring or like a Souls game. Like I rage quit Sekiro at like not even a boss fight. Because I was like, this is bullshit. Like and just like quitting it. And so like I have a threshold. It's very high, but this game does not even get close to it. Sometimes it's like, why am I struggling with this boss? And I'm like, I just need to step away, come back at it again with like fresh eyes, come at like and have an easier time with it. And every time I do, it was the right call.
Cool. Any other thoughts here on Lies of P?
Yeah, I mean, if you have Game Pass, there's really no reason not to pick up this game unless you just really don't like these sorts of games.
Sure. Yeah.
A la you, Trevor.
Yeah. I will say, obviously, I was intrigued enough. People were like posting about like, oh my God, there's a crazy like post-credit sequence, on this game. And I was intrigued enough to go like watch that. I'm not going to spoil it or anything like that, but I was like, that is an interesting thing, even as somebody who like hasn't played the game, has no interest in.
Did anything I tell you from the story give that more context or?
No, not particular. No.
Fair enough.
I mean, like, I got enough context knowing it's a game about Pinocchio when I watched it myself to be like, oh, that's an interesting direction to kind of take whatever the Lies of P series will become just from the thing I watched. Like, I didn't need that additional context beyond knowing that's a game where you play as Pinocchio.
Cool. I'm excited about it. I've just really loved this game a lot.
It's a thing. Like once you've played it, I immediately want to like talk to you about it. But, but yeah, I'm not gonna spoil it or anything like that.
Cool. Yeah, I can't wait. Like I said, if anybody out there who's listening says, "Hey, I'm going to do a spoiler cast," let me know. I want to be on it. This game is so good.
Cool. Well, then we will segue over into Final Fantasy. I think it's technically a Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, but Final Fantasy Ever Crisis out there on your mobile devices. And I think they also announced that it's going to be coming to Switch. Like I would say, largely avoid this game.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, like avoid it because it is like everything it's doing is trying to get money out of you. So if you have like the incredible restraint and can like play mobile games and never drop a dime into it, sure, you'll have a little bit of, fun. Is
it worse than the last mobile game that we played?
Oh yeah. Like,
Okay.
you will, like, this will constantly, it's got a season pass that like drops every month kind of thing, that's going to like, that wants you to put money into it. It's got loot boxes that it wants you to put money into, and then just like leveling up your characters and stuff, and like leveling up your weapons. It, like, if you get your character to like a certain point and you like grow them up to a point, it'll be like, here's a pop-up for buy for a limited time only, a Cloud Advance pack number 1 kind of thing. And like, that's only going to be in the store for 24 hours or something like that. It's and you're just like constantly being bombarded by those kinds of things in this game.
I guess a question I would have about that though then is, oh wow, what was I going to say? I had a thought process, but then you telling me that just like immediately like turned my stomach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I think, man, I'm trying to think. Oh, that's what I was going to ask. How many currencies are there?
So in addition to Gil, which is like just, you're going to use Gil to buy the simplest of resources kind of thing, or you use Gil to power up your materia and to put into synthesizing new materia and to leveling up your weapon and stuff. You get plenty of that. You never, like, Gil is not a thing they're trying to sell you. Beyond that, there are blue crystals, which I believe is kind of their kind of go-to currency, and you'll get, those are kind of the like, you'll get those playing the game, doing like reaching certain like milestones, thresholds. You get like a daily kind of thing. You can get those by watching a couple ads per day kind of thing. You'll get, basically, it breaks down to the kind of like metrics I'll give you are, if you do like all of the daily challenges, which are, upgrade a weapon, upgrade a materia, fight in, use 50 stamina points to fight in a few battles kind of thing. Stamina refreshes now like 1 stamina every couple minutes. It's like they've already nerfed that a little bit, like from what it was at start. Or like 1 stamina per 6 minutes or something like that.
Did they nerf it or they buffed it?
They you get stamina faster now. Stamina
Okay, so
refreshes faster.
Gotcha. Okay.
But also like they give you like multiple times a day, if you go check your like daily like rewards, it's like a logged in after 7 a.m., logged in after 1 p.m., logged in after 5 p.m. kind of thing, will give you like 3 stamina refill things, which will just give you 50 stamina points. To the point that like I've gotten so many of those, they have a cap of 99 stamina that I've routinely had to just like keep using stamina and just keep doing stuff just so I could pull it from rewards. So like stamina is not a thing I'm hurting for in any way. For a while, like all the characters, I'll get back to currencies in a second, but they just recently released an update where the character level limit upped from 50 to 55. Of the characters, let's see, it's 5 in Final Fantasy 7, only Zack in Final Fantasy Crisis Core, and then 4 in the Ever Crisis story, which is like the new story. So of the 10 characters I have, only 2 of them are still below level 50. So like I as much as I'm saying like don't play this game, like I've put a ton of time into it, just mindlessly like letting it play itself in a lot of ways and stuff. But so back to the currencies. So if you do all of the daily challenges, which will take you, if you have kind of a pattern to it or whatever, it'll take you less than 10 minutes to do all of the daily challenges. Knock those out. You get 50 blue crystal. You can get another 50 blue crystal per ad that you watch, a little 15 to 30 second ad. And you can watch 2 of those per day. So basically you can get like for free 150 blue crystal a day. To draw, i.e. like random loot drop a weapon, it's 300 blue crystal per weapon.
Oh gosh, okay.
Or the thing that I always save up for is like once I've got 3,000, I'll do the draw 10 kind of thing. But like even if really there's no reward other than just like getting them all done at once, because if you do a draw 10, like in the previous one they had the Brave Exvius Final Fantasy whatever, it was like, okay, yeah, if you like hold out until a draw 10, like one of those will be a guaranteed like
Yeah.
5-star thing. No such guarantee in this.
That's bullshit. Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of those are the free currencies, and then you can also buy. I mean, you can buy blue crystals as well, but like it's also pink crystals that you can only get through paying real money.
Okay.
And it'll be like, oh, buy a pack of X number of crystals and you'll get X number of pink crystals for free. And there are like pink crystal only draws that you can do and stuff like that. And they're constantly kind of like rotating in like every week. It's like, okay, here's the new feature draw and it's new weapons for Aerith, or here's a new special event where like they did one of their first events was like a big beach event where suddenly you've got like, oh, Aerith and Tifa and Zack and Cloud can all get like swimsuit outfits at the beach, but you have to like when you do those like premium draw things. They throw in a stamp card mechanic where you only get, and there's another reason to like wait until you get a draw 10. It's because only with a draw 10 will you be able to get an opportunity for stamps, and then it's like, okay, you'll get like 50% chance that you're going to get one stamp for that 3,000 draw.
There's not even a guarantee for the stamp?
No, there's a guarantee. That is the guaranteed. 50% will get you one stamp. 40% gets you two stamps. 5% gets you 3 stamps, and then there's like a 0.01% chance of getting a full 12 stamp card in like one go. And basically like, so you have to keep doing that because like the real prizes on those stamp cards are like at 6 stamps you'll get the guaranteed 5-star weapon, and you can choose basically between like which of the 2 characters in that feature draw are the weapon, and then at 12 stamps is where you can get like one of the special outfits, and the special outfits will give you like boosts in a certain stat or something. Wait,
so
that.
You don't? It's not like a battle pass, whereas you get to a certain threshold, you unlock that, and then you keep going on it. You have to get a new stamp card for that.
You get so the stamp card is with the event. So you throughout over the course of the event, if you like continue to like draw 10s into that event's stamp card, you'll get more and more stamps. So like the first event that was in like at launch, where I had a ton of like, hey, thanks for playing, here's all the like the pre-release rewards that we gave out, and because X number of people kept like following us or wish listing the game or whatever, blah blah blah. Here's a bajillion free blue crystals that you get kind of for launch.
Your typical launch, oh, I just joined. It's like your quick start.
Yeah, exactly.
To it.
In that, I was able to get enough that like I got up through the second of the second stamp card of that first event, almost through the third actually, and that's pretty much where they cap out, is like 3 stamp cards, because they don't expect anybody, unless you're like pouring a ton of money into the game.
Which I mean, these games survive off of whales.
Exactly.
Especially streamers.
Yeah. So yeah, like you dump in, like you draw. You get like, oh, I got 1 stamp. Bullshit. Blah. But the next time I throw in another thing, that 1 stamp is still there, and I got 2 stamps this time, so I get the next 2 stamps. And like each stamp still gives you like a reward. It's just the good rewards are at the 6, the 12, the 18, the 24, basically, those thresholds. So yeah, that's another of the kind of monetization elements of it. You don't have to pay for the stamp card, and the back on the season pass thing, you don't have to pay for the season pass. It's very much like a Fortnite thing of like just going through and doing like the challenges. You'll get like rewards, but like the paid rewards are significantly better.
Yeah, it's the same thing that I see with Pokemon Unite.
Yeah. Through the normal pass of the thing, I'm still getting something at every level. Like, oh, for this level, I get 100 blue crystal. But if I had paid the $14 for the battle pass at that same level, I get an extra 300 crystal. So I get the 100 crystal from the free pass, and then 300 from the the non-free. And like some of it's just the weirdest things that they like. the thing that's at the end that they're like of a 30 level battle pass for a month that they're trying to like really be like, here's your final reward if you do this, is a wallpaper that you can like add to your like the start screen. Basically you can have it just playing through like random slightly animated wallpapers. And it's like that's not that's not a prize. Like make the prize a like one of the 5-star outfits or something that your characters can get. So yeah, it's like all of the monetization stuff is just bullshit. I mean, I've never played like a Raid Shadow Legends, but this feels like what I think of a Raid Shadow Legends kind of game is, in that the actual gameplay of it is, you're going in and doing a fight, and pretty much from the jump, the game's like, just go ahead and set the thing to auto and just let the AI do the fighting. And the only thing you have to do if you're using auto is like you tap the button when your limit gauge is up, and like you trigger your limit gauge kind of thing for your characters. But like the other things you can do if you don't do auto, which is like the fighting, the combat is like so fast paced that like it really wants you to do the auto. But if you don't, you can switch between stances, so you can have like your fighting stance basically, where you're gonna get like boosts to damage and stuff, or you can switch it to like defense. So like if the enemy's about to do a big powerful attack because their gauge is full, you want to switch it to a defense stance so that you get less damage taken, and also your healing does more is more effective in the defense stance. And again, if you just leave it to auto, the game will automatically like toggle between those two things. And then and then there's like you can also just fast forward through the fights kind of thing. So basically like do it in double time. So yeah, like if you're actively playing it instead of just letting the game play itself, you're controlling a party of usually 3, definitely capped at 3, but like there are like, if you're doing the Crisis Core stuff, it's probably just going to be Zach. And so you are, fighting increasingly difficult classic Final Fantasy enemies and stuff like that. And you're like going through the game. So if you're doing like you can, for the story mode of the game, you can choose between doing the Final Fantasy VII story stuff, which will start on the bombing mission, and based on I think what they've released so far, I'm trying to think where that one leaves off. I think it has made it all the way up to basically the end of the Midgar stuff. I think is where that's where that's capped out. So basically the fight at the end of the highway is where that one is currently capped. There's Crisis Core, where you're playing as Zack through the beginning. I think that's really only made it through the opening Wutai stuff. And then the third is like the brand new for this Ever Crisis story. And it's basically like a prequel to the Crisis Core stuff of like, it's, like you are a whole bunch of like soldiers that nobody's ever met before, pre-Zack. You're out on a mission to a place in the world that's never been explored before, but you're out there like for Shinra, trying to basically colonize a little area. And then over the course of that, this is clearly also where they've put the most time and effort into, and the most like missions and stuff. Over the course of that, a young Sephiroth gets brought into your fold to basically take over your troop. And with a recent update, they added young Sephiroth as like a playable character kind of thing.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So yeah, basically now the idea is like, and of course, because it's Final Fantasy, Sephiroth gets introduced, and he comes in, he's wrecking shop as like your team is like overwhelmed by like the opposing enemy force kind of thing. He immediately comes in and like nukes a whole bunch of stuff. He's super kind of OP for like in his introduction story. Once he becomes a playable character, he's way more like manageable.
Normal,
kind of
yeah.
But like it's also where they put an actual like new fresh CG cutscene into kind of thing. He comes in, explosions and fire behind him, and of course this young Sephiroth kind of turns in the iconic Sephiroth turning in front of a fire thing that we're going to see in every game Final Fantasy ever does. But this one, he's very young and has short hair. So yeah, that's like the other thing is like the story is very much just like bleh. So I pretty much always just kind of like skip through the cutscenes and stuff. just get to the fighting, just get to like leveling up the character and stuff like that. So admittedly, I haven't like paid a ton of attention to that. Like I started out, but then it was just like, this isn't entertaining. This is just kind of blah. If you really care about the story, I'm sure they will do much like they did with like Kingdom Hearts stuff of like, somebody will compile it all into like here's what happens in the Ever Crisis story, and just go watch that instead.
Yeah. That's my plan. I'm waiting for everything to get kind of cobbled together, and then I'll watch it on YouTube.
Yeah. But yeah, like, I mean, so they basically like launched with X number of things, and then they've done like one update that has added a few new missions on the Final Fantasy VII side and the Ever Crisis side of things. And even those, like, I finished those 3 weeks ago or whatever. And the game, like, I hit the, like, I've logged in 40 days today. And got another 50 blue crystals for that, like, milestone kind of thing. So yeah, it's a fun, mindless enough thing to do especially if you have like the self-control to be like, fuck this, I don't care enough about this to put money into it. If you do put money into it, you're inevitably going to be disappointed because, as I said, like, you put money in so you can buy those crystals. Okay, cool. You put those you put those things into, a draw, hoping for like a 5-star weapon. You're going to get a whole bunch of 3 and 4-star weapons almost inevitably. Like the best draw I've had of the game, I like managed to luck into 3 5-stars in one 10-star draw.
Okay.
But they're like, I've gotten infinitely more draw 10s that have had no 5 stars in them, which is like, this is annoying. I will say, like, to that end, since that's really the only draw that you're doing is weapons. If you get, so you start basically collecting weapons at like a 3-star level. If you get a 4-star version of that same weapon, it just automatically upgrades to that 4-star level. Same with a 5-star level. And then if you get like duplicate 5 stars, you get, with each duplicate you get, basically, if it's a 3-star duplicate, you get like 1 card for that weapon. If it's a 4-star, you get 10 cards for that weapon. If it's a 5-star, you get 200 cards for that weapon. And once your weapon is a 5-star weapon, you can enhance it further to make it like a 5-star plus, aka a 6-star, with 200 cards of that weapon.
Okay.
So if you get like a duplicate 5-star, you can turn your 5-star into a 6-star immediately. The most I've gotten for a weapon, and this mostly comes from like the events, where it's like the rewards on a lot of the events are you get like 5-star, you get that weapon 5-star kind of thing. So like the first one of these I ever got was the beach umbrella for Zack in the beach thing, where also the thing on the beach. It very much was like Zack's kind of thing at the beach from Crisis Core.
Yeah.
But he was and they did a weird little, like, they were playing with time. So like half the little cutscenes you're seeing in that event are Zack and Cisne at the beach, a la Crisis Core. But then you're also seeing like Cloud and his crew at the Costa del Sea beach. And in both timelines, a giant tonberry decked out in watermelon. So basically, like, you're fighting a big watermelon. Tonberry is like the big bad enemy who's out there. He's not trying to fight people. He's just trying to have a good time and have fun and do like a fun little festival thing. Anyway,
that's adorable.
But yeah, like, beating through the increasing difficulty kind of fights got me more and more 5-star umbrellas, to the point that I was able to get to an 11-star umbrella, and basically at like the 5-star threshold. So once you become a 6-star, and then once you become an 11-star, it really, like, it takes like, oh, this attack was doing, it's a plus 500% attack to your, for your limit break or whatever. there then at like a 6-star it becomes a plus 550%, and it significantly like increases the stats of the thing once you get to that like 11-star area kind of territory. Now I've got like a couple weapons like that or I'm on track to I'm on track to get a Barrett weapon basically to that degree because of how many they give you as like event rewards. But yeah, like if you're just doing it through like the normal draws and stuff, you're gonna it's gonna inevitably be like, well, the thing I want is the Tifa lifeguard gloves, and inevitably I'm gonna get maybe 1 or 2 3 or 4-star things of that. So I'm never gonna be able I can't get those upgraded. I guess nice thing is that even once the event's done, they still throw those specialty weapons into like the general pool, and you can specify like 5 weapons that you want. Like if there's a particular one you're gunning for, you can basically go in and choose like these are the 5 that I really want, and it'll like slightly boost your chance of getting that as a 5-star pull. But it's like it goes from being like a 0.6% chance to like a 1.2% chance for those 5 weapons. Is like what kind of the numbers break out to if you go into like the statistics draws and stuff like that. So yeah, like in terms of gameplay and stuff, it's a mobile game. It's very much like trying to play itself so that you can focus on giving it money. Yeah.
The goal is to take your money from you, not to let you play a game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more of a sales storefront than a game.
That is very much where like what was it? Pokemon Masters EX was the same freaking way. I did play that game and like wrote basically. I was with Hands of Phantom at the time, so I wrote like just a scathing review of that game, and basically it was like, this is the greatest disappointment of my life. Like I can't believe that Pokemon has done this to me.
The other thing I'll say, like on a gameplay front, so like if you're playing through the story stuff, the story missions basically break down into like 3 camps. One is like, oh, this is just going to be a cutscene thing. This is just going to be story stuff. Another is like, okay, this is going to be cutscenes and just battles. And then there's like a third category that is like dungeons. And so like, as an example, there will be a dungeon that is basically the opening section of Final Fantasy VII, where you get off the train, you go into where Jesse and Biggs and Wedge are, opening the door for you. You get in, you go like you make your way down to the Scorpion, guard Scorpion, and that's pretty much all done in the style of the original 1997 Final Fantasy. So like it's basically a remastered version of that. Your characters are still polygonal, but like modern day, like they look much better than that version of Cloud. But it's basically like that's the layout you're playing through, is kind of the path you're going through these dungeons, and there'll be like a few extra chests that you can get that might have like there will be chests in the dungeons that are going to always be there in the dungeon, because they're going to give you like specific boosts that will help you against the bosses in that dungeon. And then there are like a few one-time chests in the dungeon that'll be like, okay, you open this chest and boom, there's an extra 200 blue crystals. Cool. Or here's a Choco booster, which feeds into the like Chocobo mechanic that is like, okay, you buy a Chocobo, you pair it up with one of your characters, and you send them off. And that's the thing that's happening during your idle time. So like your Chocobo and your character's out there slowly gaining experience over the course, and your Chocobo's out there finding items in that area. And you get like 1 every hour or something like that. Different Chocobo levels will give you like in different rates and increase the rate of them finding like a rare item and stuff like that. And you can use a Choco booster to be like, okay, reduce this time by an hour. That's another thing, is like, I don't count them as currencies, but like you can get like Chocobo boosters that will decrease the time for that. You'll get the other thing that's like a time thing is like, oh, if you're going to synthesize materia, that's going to take X number of minutes or hours, depending on like how powerful the materia is. You can get like decrease the timer on that kind of thing. Both of those are plentiful enough that like they're never in any kind of like, oh, I need to buy those or try and buy those kinds of things. But I'm sure they're out there in like more of the store things of like, for, $20, you'll get this pack and it'll have, 50 chocobo boosters and 50 synthesis boosters. And here's some, extra stuff to level up your materia and blah, blah, blah. Again, I'm not like, the only things I would ever potentially put money into are going to be the things that give me draws. But that's like no, don't do that. Don't put your money into that, because the draws are just straight gambling and you're going to inevitably come out behind. So yeah, that's Final Fantasy Ever Crisis. Like if it didn't have all of that like pay to play, free to play like monetization bullshit to it, it'd be like okay, this is like another fun little reimagining of characters. Well, I will also say there's solo and co-op stuff. So like if you're doing co-op, you can go do like boss battles with like a couple randos that will be like, you basically, instead of it being like a 3-party team of your people, it's you pick one person and you're paired up with a couple other randos, and you'll put they're putting their best character forward kind of thing, and the 3 of you fight. So you'll most likely have 3 clouds in a boss fight of increasing difficulty kind of stuff. But then there is another one of the like solo types is there's like extra little story stuff that is extra story for, so far they've got story missions for Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith. And it's like the Cloud stuff is, here's what happened between Cloud getting to Midgar after Crisis Core and the bombing mission. So it's him like coming into Midgar, still kind of Mako poisoned. He sees Tifa, and like that kind of shakes him out of it. And basically Tifa talks him into becoming a mercenary and kind of taking the job and stuff like that. The Tifa stuff is filling in the gap between Tifa after Nibelheim and Tifa in Midgar, or Tifa at the beginning of the game, basically. So it's her getting to Midgar, finding a job in Midgar, meeting Avalanche, and kind of becoming part of that crew.
Okay.
And then Aerith is like, I think, I don't like this was one when I got to the Aerith stuff, I started being like, I'm skipping through a lot of this dialogue. So I don't remember if it was pre-Crisis Core or if it is between Crisis Core and it's her. If you played Final Fantasy VII Remake, it's her meeting and helping out the kid who basically like steals materia from you or whatever, like steals your wallet kind of thing, and you have to go about and find him. It's her becoming friends with that kid and like helping him out because he's being attacked by monsters and stuff like that. And then like one of the final cutscenes is like Sung is there kind of like watching. So like she's already clearly like under surveillance from the Turks, and it's just I don't remember if it was supposed to be pre-Crisis Core or if it's between Crisis Core and or like basically what happens while Crisis Core is happening to Zack and Cloud, and Aerith is just there still in Midgar for years. I imagine it's probably in that vein of the timeline of things. But so like those are extra little like, oh, this is like filling in parts of characters' backstory and stuff like that. And I'm sure they'll do more with that as they introduce more and more characters and stuff. But yeah, basically through the Final Fantasy VII stuff right now, you've got characters up through Red 13. Crisis Core only has Zack, and then the Ever Crisis stuff has your 3 kind of starter characters of Glenn, who's like the cocky leader of this soldier group. Matt is nicknamed the Professor, who's like the smart. He knows like he knows the mission parameters. He knows the enemies that you're going to encounter in this area. He knows the monsters and all that stuff. And then Lucia is like hotshot sniper, basically.
Okay.
And then, as I said, Sephiroth has been added to the mix. So yeah, that's Ever Crisis. I'm sure, especially like it's very much drawing on the art style and the design of the remake stuff. So I'm sure once Rebirth is out, we'll get like Yuffie and Kate Sith, who they've come out and said is going to be called Kate Sith in this version instead of Ketchi. Yeah, so I imagine like they'll eventually get added into the mix, and so on. So, and then yeah, I don't like. It's interesting because the other thing that you're constantly kind of like dealing with is, depending on how strong your weapons are and how strong the magic is or the materia is that like all your characters are equipped with, basically you're going into a fight with a power level, and the fight is gauged at like a certain power level. And so you've got like your character power level versus like the party power level. And it's like, okay, to do this next fight, I need a power level of 90,000. Okay, my characters have 95,000. So I might do well in that fight, or I might get, my clock cleaned. I've done fights where I'm trying to do an 80,000 fight with 120,000 power level, and I still get my ass kicked. And so it's like it's not like a good, like clear factor. I mean, like I guess not 120,000, but like my max. It's definitely been like I'm 30,000 power above what this is requiring and says it should need, and why is it kicking my ass so much, kind of stuff. And I'm sure like if I didn't just use the auto recommend and really went in and like catered and was like, okay, this enemy is weak to blah blah blah, so I just need to give all of my characters that materia or something like that, then maybe I do it. But it's like, if that's the case, why isn't that being like the auto recommended build?
Yeah.
So yeah, like that's another thing. And right now, I think my peak is like 116,000 or 119,000. I think is like where my like current the best of the best gear I have will put me at that with my 3 top characters, and so they got me through all of the story stuff. But if I want to do like the super like bonus things, of like, okay, here's like extra bonus rewards, like even the earliest, like if I want to do the extra bonus like guard scorpion fight, which is going to be the first thing that you're going to do, it's like 160,000 is what I need. And it's like I don't even know how I would get my characters to that level because like they were already at the level 50 character limit and have already kind of like poured a lot of their points into like whatever stat boosts I can give them. So it would just be like, I just need to keep grinding and powering up. And even like materia right now is in a lot of ways capped at like level 5 or 10, depending on like the materia. So it's like, I was going in with like full level 10 materia on some of these things, and my weapons are, on my core crew are like level 90 weapons, which is meaning I'm putting in like all of the stuff into those weapons and stuff. So it's like I don't even know how you get to like some of the threshold the game is like dangling in front of you.
Sounds like a lot, man.
Yeah, but that's so what was leading me into that is like the Crisis Core is a completely different thing, where it's like in the Final Fantasy VII stuff, you can pick any of your 5 characters to be in your party kind of stuff, or the game is going to give you like, here's your specific party for this mission or whatever. But like Crisis Core, it's always just Zack. So it's like, okay, Zack's just got to be real beefy, and I got to give a whole bunch of stuff to him. And the game also kind of corresponds the difficulty, so it's only going to give me like a 20,000 difficulty thing because that's pretty much as high as I can get Zack or something.
That
but
yeah,
it's a lot of mobile bullshit, and so I like more so than anything I've ever touched, certainly before.
I will say the last like 15 to 20 minutes went from I might check this game out maybe to I never want to touch this game.
Yeah.
It sounds like so much. Like I hate it when a mobile game, especially when it's a brand new mobile game, comes out and basically has like all these like bajillion features on it, right? Like or a bajillion, not features, but like bajillion, like coming into a mobile game, and all of a sudden there's like 30 different like things that you have to check out, and like 3 different currencies and all this stuff. I despise it so much. It's the biggest turnoff. If you have more than 2 currencies, in my opinion, that's more like that's dumb. Don't do that. You have your paid currency and you have your free currency. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's just so bad. I mean, I will say like Brave Exvius, War of the Visions, had like their free currency was broken down into like different categories, but each of those was like 4 different kinds of items that you bought from like an in-game store with in-game currency. Like it was very much like crafting stuff.
Oh, we didn't even get into the crafting stuff.
No. Oh my god, what?
Oh yeah. I didn't even bother going down that rabbit hole.
Please don't. Like, let's just end it there.
Well, I mean, here's a sense. So leveling up, you have character specific cards that might be needed to like level up a limit break, or just there are going to be certain like barriers in the like the level up grid that you're going to need like 10 or 15 or 20 or 25 or 30 cloud specific cards or something like that. So that's one on just leveling up. Then there's also healing, power, and magic pieces, basically, that you have to like. Healing is going to be used to increase your your health. Power is going to be used to increase your strength, and magic is going to be used to increase your magic, kind of thing. And those you can get through like daily. I mean, you can get those, but you can get those pieces at any time, basically, just through like, okay, let me do a fight and just get a whole bunch of pieces. But yeah, that is just leveling up your character, like unlocking extra things in their character grids. Weapons. In addition to the weapon card that I mentioned, if you want to like level up past 5-star, weapons also. Weapons are going to use like one of 3 kind of basic types of like steel, rose gold, or electrum, and even those have like low grade, mid grade, high grade steel, and so it's like, okay, you want to level up like base weapon. Any base weapon can get up to level 20. If you want to break that level cap to get to level 30, you got to use X number of low grade steel for this particular weapon. Another weapon might be low grade rose gold or low grade electrum, and then you kind of like get up to level 30, get up to level 40, get up to whatever. And what are you using? God, I gotta look it up. Like what? Because there's a thing you're also having to dump into it to even get those levels. And it's not
Gil.
Gil's going to be a factor of all of these things, but there are like component pieces to. So to level up, it's like there are 3 tiers of basically like your level up stone or whatever. I don't remember. I'm pulling it up on the phone to see if it'll like load and I can talk through like the actual things. But it's basically like, okay, one of these will get you, an extra level and a half, or one of these will get you 2.5 levels, or one of these will get you 5 levels, or kind of thing. So you're dumping those kinds of things into it. Let me just walk through. Okay, so weapon enhancement items: low grade steel, mid grade steel, high grade steel, and then the same for electrum and the same for rose gold. And then, so those are what you need to like break your early level caps. Then there is grindstone shard, grindstone, and grindstone chunk. And those are the things that you use to level up a weapon. You dump those in plus some gil to get your weapon from level 1 to level 20. Then you use the steel to upgrade it. And then the more and more once you get to around like level 50, now you get into a new item that you need to use, which is a genome pod or a nanocube. And there's Genome Pod X, Genome Megapod X, Genome Pod Y, Nanocube Model 1, Microcube Model 1, Nanocube Model 2. And those are basically your, like, getting to breaking the level cap to 60, 70, 80. And then, if you really want to get to, like, 80, 90 kind of thing, you got to use mithril ore, which is, like, your 5-star kind of resource in that regard. So that's weapons. We already talked through like your memories. Oh, I also didn't get into summons. Summons have their own like level up grid, a la like the characters, but you also need to unlock the summons by doing like certain missions and stuff like that. And then lastly, on the materia side of things, to create materia, And also level up / upgrade materia. You're going to need your ores or your crystals, and those are going to come in the family of like flame or ice, or flame, frost, blitz for lightning, geo for earth, water, and wind for arrow spells. And then there's also void ores, which is going to get you like ruin spells. Then there's magic chips and physical chips for if you want to create a magical materia versus a like fire blow materia, kind of like physical attack materias a la Crisis Core. And if you want to level up your materia, you can either consume other materia. So like if you get like a 1-star fire that you're not going to use and you want to put that into your 3-star fire that you accidentally created, you can use that, or you can use materia boosters, small, medium, or large. And in synthesis, you can add catalysts of an evening, night, day, or dawn variety. So 4 varieties of catalysts, depending on what kind of materia you're trying to add there. And each of those has like a 3-star, a 4-star, and a 5-star tier. And dumping those into your synthesis materia is going to be like, okay, baseline, this would have given you a 1-star materia. If you pour enough of those in, you'll get to a 2-star or a guaranteed 3-star materia kind of thing. And so, yeah, that's those are all of the crafting bullshit things that we didn't even dive into. And lastly, on other currencies, there are crisis medals, which you get from doing like crisis dungeons, where you go through the dungeon area and you're trying to basically like get through it as quick as possible and like with as high a score as possible kind of thing. You can use those in a separate like crisis specific store. You've got co-op medals, which you get from doing the co-op stuff. You can, use those to cash in rewards. And then you'll get a variety of, over the course of the events, you'll get like, oh, here's a guaranteed 5-star cloud weapon ticket, or here's a guaranteed 4-star Tifa weapon ticket, or stuff like that. So you've got those kind of gotcha options as well. And same like just generic, here's a draw ticket for a guaranteed 3-star, a guaranteed 4-star, or a guaranteed 5-star thing. But those are all very rare, very, very sparse. So yeah, that's all the monetization bullshit that is Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis.
I'm sorry, I like blacked out there for a second.
I don't doubt it. Yeah.
Like I heard the words coming from you,
Mm-hmm.
and I know they're real words, but I cannot for the life of me tell you what the last like 18 resources you just referenced were.
Yeah. So the shop page has a gil section, has 5 items that spin through daily. Total for today costing less than 1,500 gil. You can refill that for an extra 500 gil to get like a few extra items, but those are like, oh, here's 3 grindstone shards and a mid-grade rose gold thing, and here's 1 small materia booster, stuff like that. Then there is a crystal store, a crystal shop, where for between $3 and $70, you're buying the red crystal with bonus X number of blue crystals per depending on the pack. The highest of that's being $70 gets you 10,800 red crystals plus 2,000 blue crystals. The lowest being $3 gets you 480 red crystals and 20 blue crystals. So 500 crystals that you can't really do anything with because that's not enough to give you anything worthwhile. Daily packs, in the same kind of vein of, $3 to $70, and that'll refresh every day. Memory packs that will give you memory points, which is what you use for your like character specific upgrades. Those are all 300 red crystal specific. And I think like one 300 crystals gets you 20 of whichever character you slot into. There are boost passes, which I didn't even mention. There's a boost pass and a soldier pass, which will give you like extra rewards for a week, for extra rewards in battle or extra rewards in your synthesis, or it'll reduce time and things, blah blah blah. The special is just whatever like random bullshit they're selling any given day kind of packs. And then usually there will also be like a here's the limited time only kind of stuff when you like reach a threshold, and it's like, okay, you've reached this threshold, now here's the pop-up to sell you this bullshit. This is only going to be here for 24 hours. And then there is like the event specific thing. So like right now it's the Sephiroth Battle Challenge, and they're selling you a whole bunch of bullshit. So yeah, 6 different stores at any given time, basically, in their shop icon. Plus, again, like the season pass that is on a completely different tab. So yeah, just trying to pry your money out of your Google Pay or Apple Wallet accounts. Don't let them do it. Listen to the last 50 minutes and take that as a cautionary tale and avoid the hell out of Ever Crisis. Any final questions from you there, Cam?
No.
Did I make you black out again?
Yeah.
Yep.
You went into here's the store breakdown. It's like, God, no.
Yeah.
What oh my gosh, what an unwieldy, terrible thing. And I can't even see it. I just trying to fathom, like, it's like they literally went through a checklist of like, at what facets can we take more money from these people?
Mm-hmm.
And the worst part is, I know people who will be just paying so
and it's like
money.
one of the big things I remember, like, oh, like, like, here's like, oh, you can get fun new outfits for the characters or whatever. Like I said, there is like one outfit that like you can't like buy it outright, but you can buy a pack that will give you like a voucher. Like it'll give you an armor voucher. So you can like say, okay, I want to go ahead and take this. I'm going to use this voucher card and I'm going to put it in and I'm going to buy the Tifa specific outfit. And like that's, $3 or something like that. And it gets you probably that voucher and some crystal. But like there's no way to just like buy, like there's no in-game way to like redeem or get those extra outfits outright. It is purely you have to pay real money to get those things. Or you might get, like, if you pour a bunch of, resources into the draws for the special events, but even those are different outfits. So like the beach, Tifa outfit, different than the, base Tifa outfit that they have in the game. It's like, oh, she's wearing, like a blue or a purple sweatshirt kind of thing. And so, yeah, it's like they just want your money. They don't, and the rewards for like playing the game versus spending money on the game are wildly disparate. So, wah. But yeah, that's Ever Crisis. And again, like for me, it's still like a mindless thing to like, I will let the game auto play a battle while I'm doing a fight in Baldur's Gate or something like that. And kind of like, constantly tick up the levels and get like that little endorphin rush. But I'm very much like, this is not getting a dime out of me because fuck all of these practices. So there you go. Well, that is going to do it for this episode. Fun lies of P-Talk, followed by depressing Final Fantasy Ever Crisis talk. Well, Cam, let's go around the table with any other plugs you might have. Anything you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, that D Plus show, the final Halloween Town film has been viewed by Trevor and Logan. And despite no calamitous event keeping me from being on this episode, I said there was a calamitous event, and that is the existence of this film.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not on it, but you two are. I have no doubt that it's a great time concluding the storied franchise that Logan and I have a dear, fond memory of that you have not been impressed by whatsoever.
No.
And if anything, has just more firmly cemented that we have trash taste in your mind. So.
I mean, like Return to Halloween Town was definitely a special level of bad in the Halloween Town series. But yeah, like, I mean, I think the first one starts at like, a 6 out of 10 for me, maybe, and then it's just all downhill from there. Yeah, those were not good movies. I'm glad that our 4-year annual stint of doing them is now at an end. So yes, you can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey. In addition to that episode of That D Plus Show, which is a fun conversation. Like Logan and I definitely like pick apart the movie and like, obviously this movie isn't made for us, but also who the hell is this movie made for? What's the deal with recasting Marnie? What's like, why do they make so many baffling decisions? Like these characters aren't the previous versions of these characters. Why did they do this at all? Very much a fun conversation at the very least. You can also find or stay tuned for the rest of our That D Plus Show Halloween month extravaganza, where this coming week we'll be doing the recent Haunted Mansion film that came out this year with Rosario Dawson. And we will also be doing, we'll wrap up the month next week with Treehouse of Horror episodes 7, 8, and 9, continuing our trend of Simpsons Treehouse of Horror that we've done the last couple of years, which should be a much better annual tradition than the return to Halloween or the Halloween Town stuff. So yeah, stay tuned for all that. And then also you've got my ongoing Baldur's Gate Let's Plays on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We spent the last week in Moonrise Towers. So I think this next week I'm going into the Gauntlet of Shar for all that fun stuff, and probably wrapping up Act 2 here in the next week or two of my Baldur's Gate 3 Let's Play. So go check that out. You follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site, or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest from us. Once again, if you liked what you heard, please rate, review, like, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Thank you for listening. As always, stay nerdy and be good to each other.